The day I found out I was pregnant, I suggested a divorce to Daniel. Just because I went out to a birthday dinner with my assistant? He raised an eyebrow. That's it? He picked up the divorce papers and casually signed his name. For the next 3 months, I won't agree to remarry. When the time comes, don't cry and beg me. 7 years together, he understood me far too well. I knew that 3 months was the longest I could endure a cold war, and I believed even more firmly that without him, I wouldn't be able to survive. But he had no idea that I had already scheduled the surgery and bought a small apartment in a northern city more than 1,000 kilometers away. My mother once said that a man who betrays his marriage isn't even as good as a dog. This time, I would not turn back. I put the signed divorce agreement into my file folder and prepared to turn and leave. Daniel spoke coldly. I'll give you one more chance. Grace, marriage is not a joke. I turned back to look at him, my expression serious. I'm serious. You say that every time, he said with a faint smile, shaking his head. You even went as far as staging a divorce this time. What are you planning to do next? The soft crystal light fell over Daniel as he lightly tapped his fingers on the table, looking calm and assured. No, I replied evenly. There won't be a next time. His fingers paused slightly, as if he still wanted to say something, when a sudden rumble of thunder sounded outside. The phone on the table lit up, and 3 words appeared on the screen. Lucy Tran. I gave a faint, mocking smile. Daniel didn't seem bothered at all. He merely shrugged and turned on the speaker. As soon as the call connected, the sobbing voice of a young woman came through. Director Daniel. The rain outside is really heavy. I'm stuck at the office and can't get a cab. There's constant thunder and lightning. I'm really scared. Daniel didn't answer right away. Instead, he looked at me. If this had been before, I would have snatched the phone and scolded her, then forbidden Daniel from going to pick her up. But now, holding the divorce papers, I felt an unexpected sense of relief. In the strange silence, Lucy seemed to sense something and cautiously asked, Sister-in-law, are you there too? Without waiting for an answer, she hurriedly explained, I don't mean anything else. With rain like this, it would be inconvenient for Director Daniel to come pick me up. I just want to borrow the CEO's office to sleep for one night. If sister-in-law feels uncomfortable, I can explain. I promise I'll keep it clean and won't dirty your room. Sister-in-law, can you hear me? I couldn't hold back anymore. I stepped forward and took the phone. Lucy Tran, if I remember correctly, your position is executive assistant. On the other end of the line, she sounded startled and stammered softly, Yes. So as an assistant working overtime who runs into bad weather, your first reaction is to call your boss, I continued calmly, crying while saying you're scared. You can't get a cab home even though the company clearly has a staff rest area, and the solution you choose is to ask to stay overnight in the CEO's private office. Is that correct? Lucy fell completely silent. Poor workability and no sense of boundaries. Calling a married boss close to midnight to act pitiful? Had her parents never taught her what manners or shame are? I glanced at the clock. It was already 11 at night. She had only been working here for 3 months. Daniel had always been generous with employees. There was never any need for someone to work overtime this late. Even if there truly was work that made it impossible to go home, the company's rest area had folding beds and personal supplies. But Lucy, the moment she opened her mouth, asked to sleep in the CEO's office, the room with a small bed meant for when Daniel worked late on projects. Sometimes I slept there with him as well. My toiletries and pajamas were still inside. Where did she get the nerve to say she wanted to sleep there? Not to mention everything that had happened before. Even though I had already prepared myself, those petty things that stuck in my throat like fish bones were still hard to swallow, and I was provoked until my chest rose and fell rapidly. I'm sorry, sister-in-law. I was being thoughtless. Please don't argue with Director Daniel because of this, Lucy said. He's been extremely busy with work lately, and his health hasn't been very good either. Lucy suddenly burst into tears. She cried like a child, yet stubbornly refused to hang up. The sound of her sniffling was unbearably irritating. That's enough. Daniel stood up and snatched the phone back, quickly lowering his voice to coax her with a few gentle words. She just graduated. She doesn't understand anything yet. Why are you getting angry with her? He frowned as he looked at me, completely failing to recognize those obvious little tricks. Was it that he truly couldn't see through such cheap tactics, or that he actually enjoyed them? The anger boiling in my chest suddenly extinguished. I looked at Daniel and felt that everything had become meaningless. It rained all night. The next morning, the moment I unlocked my phone, I saw that Daisy had sent me a link. It was an online post, uploaded an hour earlier by an account called the CEO's Personal Assistant. The captions read, "Private pickup and drop-off in a stormy night. A loving breakfast to heal the mood." Guess who this fairy tale CEO belongs to? The first photo was a selfie of Lucy sitting in the back seat of a Maybach. The second showed her holding a Starbucks cup, raising it toward Daniel, who was working in the distance, as if clinking cups. There was even a small hand-drawn heart on the cup. I paused for a moment. Daniel hadn't gone out at all last night. It seemed he had sent the family driver to pick her up. My phone vibrated again. Daisy called me directly. "Grace, which shameless little homewrecker is this, daring to fantasize about your man? Does Daniel even know he's being publicly marked like this? You need to fire her immediately." The comments below are calling her the CEO's wife. I feel sick just reading them. I tapped into that account's profile. There were only a little over 10 posts, yet it already had nearly 300,000 followers. The entire feed was a so-called innocent assistant's diary paired with a domineering CEO, filled with unmistakable insinuations. The comment section was in a frenzy, urging them to hurry up and get married. Daisy was still cursing on the phone. "This girl is really good at making things up. Everyone knows Daniel is an iceberg that only melts in front of you. How does she even dare?" Then she added, "And that sapphire necklace too. That's not your favorite brand." Her voice gradually softened. After a while she asked gently, "Grace, are you crying?" I covered the microphone and sniffed hard. "No, it rained last night and it was cold. I just caught a slight cold." I paused. "Let's not talk about this anymore. When are you coming back to Leon City? I want to go with you." Daisy was silent for a moment, then asked, "Did you and Daniel fight because of that girl?" "No," I said quietly. "He didn't argue with me." I looked out at the gloomy sky. It had rained all night, and water droplets still clung to the window, blurring everything outside. "It's not just that this city rains too much," I said softly. "I don't want to stay anymore. Last night, when Daniel signed the divorce papers, he didn't hesitate at all. What do I still have to hold on to?" I also told Daisy about my pregnancy. She screamed on the other end of the line, insisting that I go out and meet her immediately. As a result, when I arrived at the restaurant we had agreed on, she was still stuck in traffic. This place was a private restaurant Daniel and I used to visit often. The staff all recognized me. As soon as they saw me, the manager naturally led me toward a private room. Director Daniel arrived a little earlier. "Please watch your step." I froze. Daniel was here too? From inside the room came familiar laughter and voices. I still remember when this place first introduced their seasonal dish. "Grace kept insisting that you bring her here to try it. Why didn't you call her to come along today?" That was Victor's voice, the deputy CEO. "She's sulking." "Leave her alone," Daniel replied, his tone as cold as ever. "It's my fault," a soft female voice followed. "I shouldn't have worked overtime until midnight and even called Director Daniel." Lucy Tran was there as well. "Just because of a single phone call?" Another deputy CEO smacked his lips. "Grace is really getting more and more unreasonable. Daniel, don't blame me for being blunt. Back then she chased after you relentlessly. Now that she finally married you, she doesn't know how to cherish it and keeps throwing tantrums, dragging everyone into her moods." "So it was Grace who pursued Director Daniel first?" Lucy suddenly spoke up, her voice unable to hide a trace of secret delight. She sighed softly, deliberately lowering her tone. "I thought, Director Daniel treats Grace so well. He's clearly so busy he barely has time to eat, yet he still has to accompany her on all kinds of occasions. Just because something small didn't go her way, she gets upset. It really makes people feel sorry for him." The room fell silent for 2 seconds, then everyone began echoing her sentiment. "Look at that. His wife isn't even as understanding as Assistant Lucy. Women get older and turn into lionesses. How could they still be as gentle as young girls?" Listening to this sent a chill down my spine. These were all people who had once built the company together with Daniel. Back then, when times were hard, I paid out of my own pocket to buy equipment for them. In summer, I ordered fruit for everyone. In winter, I ordered late-night meals. They used to call me sister-in-law so sweetly. I never expected them to be like this behind my back. I didn't want to listen anymore. I turned to leave, but bumped into a waitress carrying dishes. She cried out softly in alarm, and the seasonal smoked fish platter spilled onto the floor. The laughter and conversation inside the room stopped instantly. The door was pushed open. Sister-in-law? Several deputy CEOs looked at one another in shock. I raised my head and looked straight at Daniel, who was sitting in the main seat. Beside him, pressed close, was Lucy Tran, just like the lady of the house. The manager rushed over to clean up. Seeing that the waitress wasn't burned, I quickly apologized. She blushed, shook her head, said it was fine, and went back to work. Throughout the entire process, Daniel's gaze never left me. Victor forced an awkward smile and stepped forward to greet me. Sister-in-law, have you been here long? Why didn't you come in and sit down? 15 minutes, I replied coldly. Please, go on. Oh, it's just a misunderstanding. Daniel, hurry up and come explain things to her. The others laughed stiffly, hurriedly standing up to invite me in. Lucy suddenly sprang to her feet and poured a full glass of clear liquor. Sister-in-law, please don't overthink it. Everyone didn't mean it that way. Her fingers trembled slightly as she lifted the glass. Today is my first official day on the job. Director Daniel invited the deputy CEOs to celebrate for me. I got a bit emotional and complained a few times. No, it's all my fault. Please don't be angry with Director Daniel anymore. I'll use this drink to apologize to you. Lucy tilted her head back and drank it all in one go, choking on the liquor until her face turned red and tears welled up. Daniel frowned slightly and handed her a tissue. I spoke coldly. You're done talking, and you conveniently dumped all the blame on me as well. Lucy looked up then, her expression both fragile and stubborn. I just graduated and came alone to a big city. I don't have any family or friends here. Director Daniel is the only person I trust and rely on. Last night, the rain was too heavy, and I panicked, so I called him. You say I don't know my boundaries? I admit that. But you also insulted my parents. That's something I can't accept. Her voice caught as she spoke. When she finished, the deputy CEOs all looked at me, their expressions changing, their eyes filled with reproach. I was so angry that I laughed, just about to retort, when Daniel suddenly spoke up. Grace didn't insult anyone. He looked at Lucy, his voice lowering. This matter is over. Don't bring it up again. Lucy nodded reluctantly, holding back her grievance, then mustered her courage to pour 2 more glasses of liquor and walked up to me. Sister-in-law, let me toast you 1 more glass. Please forgive me. This time, Daniel didn't stop her. He knew my alcohol tolerance was very good, but I was pregnant. Even if this child might not be kept, I still didn't want to harm my body like this. I took the glass, flicked my wrist, and splashed the liquor straight onto the floor. The entire room changed color at once. Lucy's eyes filled with tears as she turned her head, about to seek help from Daniel. The very next second, a sharp slap landed squarely across her face. Pretty impressive, isn't it? Daisy said coldly. You've got every man in the room wrapped around your finger, watching you gang up on Grace. You did it because you thought no one would stand up for her, didn't you? A faint scent of roses drifted beside me. Daisy had arrived. Before anyone in the room could react, she swept her gaze around once, her eyes stopping on Daniel. Daniel, you're really letting this little homewrecker climb all over your head and bully Grace like this? She pointed at him without restraint. Grace can't drink right now. You know that, don't you? Daniel turned to look at me, momentarily stunned and confused. What's wrong with her? It has nothing to do with you? Daisy cut him off sharply. Go take care of your precious assistant. I grabbed Daisy, who was seething with anger, and pulled her out of the room, leaving behind all kinds of stares from the people inside. Grace, you were really slow to throw that slap, Daisy said as we walked. Back in college, was there a single girl buzzing around Daniel that you didn't put in her place? Why were you so restrained today? She gulped down a big mouthful of milk tea, so angry she thumped her chest. And you're even pregnant with his child. What were you afraid of? You should have beaten that girl properly. I rubbed Daisy's back and said softly, Last night, I told Daniel I wanted a divorce. He agreed. I'm not planning to keep this baby either. I want to move back to Leon City. The barrage of news made Daisy choke on her milk tea, coughing violently before she finally calmed down. She fell silent for a long moment. Grace, 7 years together, can you really let go? Daisy asked quietly. I knew she wasn't siding with Daniel. She was afraid I would regret it. Afraid I would be heartbroken. Because I had loved Daniel for 7 years. He had been a part of my life. I looked at a little girl in the distance holding a balloon and fell into silence. Over the past few days, I had asked myself that question countless times. Until just now, after hearing Daisy's words, I suddenly woke up. She said that back then, I made dealing with all the girls buzzing around Daniel look easy. But in reality, I had never been someone particularly capable or tough. Even when arguing with a roommate, I ended up crying. I wasn't good at fighting over men at all. Back then, all I had to do was tell Daniel that I was jealous, and he would cut off every ambiguous tie with those girls himself. There had never been anything ugly like today. This time, he would rather sign the divorce papers than fire Lucy. I finally understood. This was beyond saving. The first time I met Daniel was under rather awkward circumstances. My roommate and his roommate were dating. Who would have thought the guy was two-timing and got exposed? The next day, my friend dragged a whole group of us to confront him, and Daniel happened to be there as well. That scumbag stammered and begged Daniel to testify that he hadn't left the dorm the night before, but after hearing the full story, Daniel's face darkened. I can't help you, he said. In love, loyalty is the most basic line. His voice was low and cold. Wearing a faded plaid shirt, he stood there facing curses and threats, yet his gaze remained firm, as if he were protecting a precious truth. In that moment, my heart trembled slightly. My standard for choosing a partner has always been simple: basic loyalty, the simplest yet hardest thing. When I was young, my parents fought endlessly over this. My father was handsome and flirtatious, the classic womanizer of his era. He often spent nights in singing tea houses, coming home with lipstick stains still on his collar. My mother loved him and hated him at the same time. Once, she even held a knife to her own neck, threatening to die if he kept fooling around with other women. But every time, my father only needed to coax her with a few sweet words, and she would soften again. Then he would go back to his nights of indulgence. One day, the last thread of reason in my mother finally snapped. It was winter. That day she put on the brightest red lipstick, wore her favorite dress, hugged me tightly, and said her final words. Grace, when you grow up, never marry a man like your father. Then she turned away without looking back and jumped from the rooftop of the tea house, crashing onto the white snow below, blooming vividly like a dark red flower. I had dreamed of that scene countless nights, and because of it, I rejected every man who pursued me until the year I met Daniel. I thought he was different from my father. At first, Daniel didn't notice me at all. Everyone even said he was an iceberg in the physics department, someone who had never been ambiguous with anyone. But precisely because of that, I became even more determined to win him over. He had stomach problems, so I would get up before dawn and wait downstairs at the dorm with breakfast. He loved philosophy, so I went to the library to borrow the books he had read and wrote my reflections, setting the posts so only he could see them. He liked indie bands, so I crossed half the city searching for old records that were no longer sold and casually gave one to him for his birthday. And so it went on until the winter of my sophomore year. That day, as usual, I stood downstairs at the men's dorm, holding a bag of steaming hot buns, waiting for Daniel. He was walking over with a classmate when he noticed my nose and ears flushed red from the cold. He suddenly sighed, took off his scarf, and wrapped it around me. Grace, he said, you have to love yourself first before you can love someone else. I buried my face into his scarf, smiling until my eyes curved. Of course I love myself, I said. That's why I'm choosing my life partner so carefully. From that day on, for 7 years, Daniel truly had only me in his eyes and in his heart, until Lucy appeared. One July day, Daniel came home very late. He said his car had been scraped and sent for repairs. I asked if he was okay, if he was hurt. He shook his head, hugged me, and told me about something interesting that had happened that day. It turned out HR had screened out a resume, a fresh graduate, a young girl. She refused to accept it, took her file to the parking lot, and blocked his car to ask for another chance, nearly causing an accident. I frowned as I listened, about to say how dangerous that was, but then I noticed Daniel seemed immersed in the memory, a smile on his face. Even he didn't realize it. A strange sense of unease suddenly rose in me. After that, everything unfolded exactly as my instincts had warned. It was when he accidentally sent me a cute cartoon sticker while texting. It was when he showed up 2 hours late on my birthday. It was when, even though my period wasn't due yet, he still told the housekeeper to make all kinds of nourishing and bring them to the office. Or when the necklace that was supposed to be our anniversary gift ended up being ordered in an identical second piece for Lucy. Too many things. Over the past 3 months, he and I had argued countless times because of her. He said Lucy was like him when he was younger. Her family background wasn't good, but she was very resilient. Whenever he mentioned her worn canvas shoes, his eyes revealed a trace of pity. He said he only saw her as a junior who needed guidance, yet again and again he crossed boundaries and trampled on my dignity. Just 2 days ago, during an argument, I smashed the ceramic piggy bank Lucy had given him. Daniel's face darkened as he turned away and slammed the door behind him. I sat there sobbing, then went to wash my face. When I looked into the mirror, I froze in shock, terrified to see a face that looked exactly like my mother's back then, full of grievance and hatred, pitiful and ugly at the same time. In that moment, I knew I had to leave. I booked plane tickets with Daisy back to Leon City and went home to pack. But when I opened the door, I saw Lucy there too. She shrank slightly when she saw me, but then straightened her back again. "Grace, I'm here to help Daniel pack," she said. "He's about to take me to East City on a business trip." After she finished speaking, Lucy's eyes followed me warily, as if she were still afraid of the slap Daisy had given her the other day. I treated her like air and walked straight into the bedroom, where Daniel was rummaging through things. Ties and shirts were scattered all over the bed. When he saw me come in, he pressed his lips together and asked casually, "You weren't feeling well yesterday? Did your period come early?" I let out a mocking laugh. "We're divorced. You don't need to care." I stepped over the clothes on the floor, opened a drawer, and began packing. Daniel crossed his arms and stared at me, his gaze probing. After watching for a while, he suddenly let out a harsh laugh. "So you know I'm going to East City for a business trip? You're worried, huh? Tell me, when were you planning to secretly follow me? I'll have Lucy change her ticket so you can go together." I ignored him, stood on tiptoe, and reached for the suitcase on top of the wardrobe. Daniel stepped forward to help me. I wanted to keep my distance, but he pulled me into his arms. "Enough, don't be angry anymore," he said softly. "You've already hit her. Aren't you satisfied yet?" He leaned close to my ear, lowering his voice to coax me. This was always Daniel's most effective tactic. I frowned, about to push him away, when Lucy's voice suddenly came from outside. "Director Daniel, I'm a little thirsty. Could you go downstairs and buy me a bottle of water?" Daniel paused and turned to look at her. "There's water in the fridge. Get it yourself." Lucy hurriedly shook her head, still maintaining that obedient, timid look. "Sister-in-law definitely won't like it if I touch things in the house without permission. It's better if I go to the convenience store downstairs." I laughed. "If you already know I don't like it, then why did you follow us back here? Are you deliberately trying to provoke me?" Hearing the anger creep into my voice, Lucy's eyes reddened. The hand she had resting on the doorframe quickly withdrew. Daniel lowered his voice. "I asked her to come along to the airport for convenience." He tilted his head and spoke gently to Lucy. "You're not familiar with this place yet. Don't wander around. It's fine to take water from the fridge here." Lucy nodded faintly, her face full of grievance, and left. As soon as she was gone, Daniel looked straight into my eyes, his tone serious. "I don't understand. You were so gentle and tolerant toward that waitress at the restaurant. Why do you have to target Lucy like this? She's only in her early 20s. Making some mistakes is normal." I curled my lips into a smile. "Because I'm a narrow-minded, jealous woman who goes crazy the moment she sees her husband with a female assistant, who doesn't hesitate to threaten divorce. There. Do you understand now?" Satisfied? Daniel took half a step back, frowning deeply, disappointment clear in his voice. If you keep acting like this, then don't go to East City with me. Who said I wanted to go with you? I sneered. Then where are you planning to go? I didn't answer. I turned away and continued packing. The moment I opened the wardrobe, a strong, pungent scent of orange blossom hit me, making me nauseous. The perfume inside had been replaced with the one I hated most, exactly the same scent Lucy wore. Daniel hadn't understood yet, but when he saw my face turn pale, his voice softened a little. Are you really not feeling well? Have you gone to the hospital? I shook my head. It's just gastritis. He reached out to touch my forehead, about to say more, when Lucy's voice sounded outside again. Director Daniel, I'm a little thirsty. Can I go downstairs to buy some water? After we arrived in East City, Daniel seemed to want to make amends. Every day, he texted me his itinerary and asked about my health, just like before. I didn't reply. I even found it ridiculous. He didn't actually need to report these things to me. Lucy, on the other hand, updated her social media diligently. Golf courses, private ski resorts, yacht clubs, auctions. Wherever Daniel went, she followed. Work details were kept confidential, but every bit of indulgence and pleasure was flaunted. Those carefully curated photos of an upper-class lifestyle quickly made Lucy famous, drawing massive attention. There was even a highly liked comment asking when she planned to get pregnant with the CEO's child, so the commenter could choose their next life accordingly. Lucy replied with a shy emoji and even pinned the comment to the top. The post spread rapidly through elite social circles. Daniel's half-profile was recognized as well, and the tone of the comments began to shift. Isn't this the CEO of Van Trek Group? I heard his wife was his college classmate. They got married right after graduation. My God, so that girl is the third party? I've been shipping them this whole time, unfollowing. This is polluting my feed. If you're going to curse the men too. Cheating men are all trash. Comments like that grew more and more. Lucy couldn't delete them all in time and had no choice but to hide the post and set her account to private. But the story had already spread. Some people even started separate threads analyzing whether the CEO's personal assistant knew she was actually the third party. At first, I planned to just scroll past it, but for some reason, I went back and bought more views. I pushed the post to give it even more exposure. The more engagement, the better. I had always liked watching scenes like that unfold anyway. My lower abdomen ached faintly. I put my phone down and took a sip of the black chicken soup stewed with angelica that Daisy had brought over. On my second day back in Leon City, I went to a private hospital for the procedure. The doctor said I was slightly anemic and suggested I stay for observation for a few days. I didn't bother arguing and stayed a full week. There was no dramatic anguish like I had imagined. When I woke up after the surgery, I was so calm that even I found it frightening. The baby had been very small, just over 40 days, nothing more than a tiny sprout of life. I was relieved that I hadn't forced it into a world where its parents no longer loved each other. A child born to parents without love is like a plant deprived of sunlight. It grows up suffering more than others. The bitter taste of medicine still lingered in my mouth, but the chicken soup Daisy brought was delicious. I finished it completely, then opened the draft of the equity transfer agreement. If nothing unexpected happened, Daniel would contact me soon. What I didn't expect was that he would come in person. I had just hung up the phone after hearing Daisy tell me the news when a dust-covered figure appeared at the door of my hospital room. Daniel stood there, his face dark and drawn, frozen as he stared at me lying on the bed. After a long while, he finally moved his lips and asked hoarsely, "Why are you in the obstetrics department?" "I just had a minor procedure," I replied calmly. "This is exactly what you're thinking." He staggered, as if about to fall. Nurses passing by couldn't help but look curiously at the tall man. I sighed. "Come in and close the door. I have something to say." Daniel walked over in a daze. Only when he got close did I see his unshaven chin, dark circles under his eyes, and a wrinkled, unaroned shirt collar. It was obvious he had taken the earliest flight to get here. I looked away and handed him a stack of documents. The divorce was rushed, so we didn't finish dividing the assets. Van Trek Group is your life's work. I don't want my shares, but I want $30 million in cash. As for the properties and insurance funds, I'll take half. Daniel lowered his head and flipped through the papers, his hands beginning to tremble. He looked up at me, disbelief filling his eyes. When did you prepare all this? I gave a faint smile. While you were taking your personal assistant around to broaden her horizons, and while preparing to have a child for you. Daniel frowned and hurriedly explained. If this is about that account, I've already had Tony contact the PR team. The news will be taken down and the account will be deleted. It won't have much impact. As for Lucy, he paused briefly, Lucy will be transferred to an out-of-province branch. She won't be my assistant anymore. She said running social media was just a side job, and she acted on impulse to chase views when she posted those things. None of it was real. The faster Daniel spoke, the more pained he looked. His hand trembled as he tried to place it on my abdomen. Grace, it's been 7 years. Do we really need to end up like this? Need? I slapped his hand away coldly. Even now, you still think you did nothing wrong, don't you? Daniel froze, suppressing his anger, his voice low. Where did I go wrong? Between Lucy and me, aside from work, we never crossed any lines. There was nothing improper, nothing that wronged you. I clutched my stomach and laughed until tears streamed down my face. You remember your assistant's menstrual cycle. You give her a necklace worth over 100 million as a birthday gift. On business trips, you stick together and even drink from the same glass. And all of that is just work? I clapped lightly, my voice dripping with sarcasm. Our CEO is truly overflowing with compassion. Daniel's face went deathly pale. He pressed his lips together for a long time before finally speaking in a low voice. I just see my younger self in her. You wouldn't understand. Back then, I was poor and looked down on. I was rejected everywhere I applied for jobs. I had to grit my teeth and get through it all on my own, you know that. I cut him off and closed my eyes, my voice still trembling despite myself. I was the one who went through those days with you. Have you forgotten, Daniel? Those years filled with insecurity. Bitterness spread endlessly. I had cherished every shred of that young man's dignity. Falling into the mud while riding the subway on rainy days was nothing. I scrimped and saved just to buy him a discounted suit, happier than if I'd bought myself 100 dresses. On our anniversaries, we only had enough money to eat at street stalls. He would blush with shame and promise to make it up to me someday. I even clinked a cup of water with a stray dog by the roadside, laughing as I said we would be rich one day. It was me who walked with him out of that tiny rented room and into a wider world. And yet, he eagerly plucked the fruits of that journey to shelter another woman. Do you know why I don't like celebrating my birthday alone? I asked. Daniel paused slightly, not understanding why I suddenly changed the subject. Because every year on my birthday, I relive the day my mother committed suicide. She was driven mad by my father's filthy affairs. She would rather leave me behind and die. I gently smoothed the pristine white blanket, my voice very soft. And this year, on my birthday, you left me too, just to go help Lucy fix her damn computer. Daniel was about to explain, but I shook my head and looked straight into his eyes. You once said that in love, loyalty is the minimum boundary. Those words from years ago were like a bullet lodged straight into his forehead. Daniel clutched his hair in pain. I can't repeat the same mistake. This marriage is over. Go. Daniel refused to leave. Daisy cursed him with every harsh word she could think of, and even slapped him twice. But the next day, he was still there, like a nail driven into the ground, waiting outside my hospital room, carrying several boxes of expensive supplements, along with the butterfly pastries and irises I liked. I didn't touch any of it, and had everything returned. This continued until the day before I was discharged, when Victor called me. He said Lucy had been dug up by competitors, the media was growing more aggressive by the day, and Van Treck's stock price was plummeting. I was afraid the shares in my hands would lose too much value, so I told Daniel to go back first and deal with the company matters. I said I would return as well. Daniel's eyes lit up. But I won't attend the press conference, and I won't step forward to clear things up for you, I added. You caused this disgrace yourself, so you deal with it yourself. Before that, Victor called me once more, his voice lowered and pleading. Nothing has really happened yet. Give Daniel another chance. After all these years together, he turned down countless women because of you. If he wanted to do something, he would have done it long ago. Lucy is still young and doesn't understand things. Be more generous and let it go. The whole company sees you as the boss's wife. Isn't that enough? I let out a cold laugh. Victor, I can't be generous. I'm not that kind of older woman who's gentle like a cat. I can't help with this. Besides, Daniel and I are already divorced. Whoever wants the chair of Mrs. Van Track can sit in it. Victor fell silent. I hung up decisively and took a deep breath. This time, when I went back, I still had one last thing to do. Originally, I planned to go alone, but Daniel looked up my flight himself, like a ghost silently trailing me all the way to the airport. I didn't care. I put on my sunglasses and slept the entire way. He was considerate enough to walk behind me, without bothering me, saying nothing at all, until we arrived at the front door. Lucy, somehow having found out the information, was already waiting there. After only a few days apart, she had grown noticeably thinner, dressed exactly like a student, her bare face completely different from the glamorous look she'd had before in designer dresses. The moment she saw Daniel, her eyes immediately reddened with grievance. Director Daniel, HR has already told me I'm being let go. They even threw all my things out. Daniel's face was icy. I arranged it. Starting next month, you'll go work at the branch. But I'm your assistant, Lucy protested, still struggling. I know exactly where I went wrong. Being fired and transferred is already the lightest punishment, Daniel said firmly, stepping around her. She tried to pull me into the house. Lucy's eyes were red, yet she still refused to let go. I only posted a few things, that's all, she sobbed. What girl hasn't ever dreamed of a domineering CEO falling in love with her? She cried so hard she could barely finish her sentences. I admit some of it was made up, but when you do self-media, you need topics to get views. Director Daniel knows it too. My parents are both disabled, and I still have a younger brother in school. Our whole family depends on the money I send back. The pressure on me is too much, so I thought of this way to increase my income. Director Daniel, please give me one more chance. As she spoke, Lucy clutched Daniel's sleeve, tears streaming down her face like pear blossoms in the rain. It was truly an outstanding display of melodramatic acting. I crossed my arms and watched calmly. Counting even that necklace, in just a few months of working, Lucy had extracted at least over $200 million in value from Daniel, gifts and bonuses, not to mention the high-end dresses for banquets and VIP cards to luxury clubs. I had already looked into it. Her parents' health was indeed not good, but they earned their living honestly. They weren't the kind of family that drained their children dry. Lucy's anxiety came from one thing only. She couldn't bear to let go of her current life. Daniel had clearly realized that as well. His face turned cold as he flung Lucy's hand away. That's enough. Leave. If you don't go, I'll call security. But Lucy kept crying and arguing. I didn't expect those posts to go viral like that. Someone must have been pushing it behind the scenes. Suddenly, as if she had found someone to blame, she looked at me with reddened eyes. Sister-in-law, it was you, wasn't it? I know you don't like me, but Van Track is Director Daniel's life's work. How could you do this just to vent your anger? Shut up! Daniel roared. Stop smearing Grace. What she's done for Van Track isn't something you have any right to comment on. Lucy cried as she sneered. Director Daniel, you still don't understand. Look at her, so aloof and superior. Other than demanding your love and spending your money, has she ever cared about your health? Has she ever understood how hard it was for you to build the company from nothing? You work late into the night without even having time to eat, while she stays at home acting like a queen, throwing tantrums and picking fights at the slightest thing. What has she ever sacrificed for you? A woman like this doesn't deserve to be by your side. Lucy's face twisted with rage, her eyes filled with hatred as she stared at me. Strangely, I suddenly felt relieved. I raised my hand and slapped her hard across the face. Looks like the last slap wasn't memorable enough. When Daniel and I were eating at roadside stalls and scrimping to save on rent, you were probably still dreaming somewhere about climbing into wealth. What right do you have to say I'm not worthy of him? Idiot. Security rushed over at the noise and dragged Lucy away. She kept screaming and crying, calling Daniel's name, but this time, no one answered her. After that, Daniel personally held a press conference to apologize to shareholders and clients. He announced he would temporarily step down from management to avoid impacting the company. His sincere attitude, coupled with the establishment of an additional charity foundation to steer public opinion, barely kept Vantrek from collapsing. After the chaos that day, Daniel canceled Lucy's transfer to the branch outright. She still refused to accept it and tried the same old trick, blocking the car in the parking lot. This time, however, the car was being driven by Victor, who couldn't brake in time and hit her. She had to be hospitalized. Lucy cried and demanded to see Daniel, only to be filmed by onlookers and uploaded online, becoming a laughingstock for netizens. By the time I saw the video, I had already finished all the paperwork for the equity transfer and asset division. Right before leaving Leon City, I stopped by my mother's grave. It had been cleaned spotless, with a bouquet of purple irises and mung bean cakes laid out, her favorites. My face remained expressionless as I gathered all the flowers and pastries and threw them into a trash bag, then replaced them with the items I had bought. "Mom," I said softly, "from now on I won't help you throw away that man's things anymore. Just pretend you don't see them." I gently brushed my fingers over the smiling photo of my mother on the tombstone and whispered that all those things had been brought by Grace Hoysuin. My biological father, after my mother jumped to her death that year, everyone thought he would remarry soon. But it was as if he became a completely different person. After arranging the funeral, he stayed inside the house for 3 days and 3 nights, shaved his head bald, and from then on never stepped into a tea house again. Never had anything to do with women. He drank himself drunk every day, and when he sobered up, he would hold my mother's photo and cry. The neighbor ladies talked about it with nothing but sighs and headshakes. You don't know how to cherish someone when they're alive, so what's the use of crying after they're gone? Crying can't change anything. If love has to be measured by the pain after separation, then that kind of love is nothing more than mutual self-torture. As I walked down the mountain, a light drizzle suddenly began to fall. Autumn was approaching, and the air had started to turn chilly. From a distance, I saw Daniel standing beneath a road sign, holding an umbrella and waiting. I didn't know how long he had been there. When he saw me come out, he hurried toward me, angling the umbrella over my head. Then he took a bag of steaming hot chestnuts out from inside his coat. "I saw them being sold by the roadside and bought you a bag," he said. "I remember that every autumn you always insisted on eating chestnuts." He carefully held the paper bag out in front of me, as if offering a precious treasure. The sweet aroma spread through the rainy air. I didn't take it. I only looked at half his shoulder, already soaked by the rain. "Daniel," I said softly, "do you remember the morning when we first started being together?" He stiffened for a moment, then a trace of joy flickered in his eyes as he nodded. "I remember. That day the snow was really heavy. You were standing under the dorm building waiting to bring me steamed buns, your face all red from the cold." I gently nudged my umbrella aside, covering his shoulder instead. "Back then, you told me that you had to learn to love yourself first before loving someone else." I lowered my head and took another umbrella out of my backpack. "If you want me to forget everything and go back to you, to me, that would just be another form of torment. Spilled water is hard to gather again. A shattered mirror is hard to mend, so we both need to learn how to love ourselves." Daniel's eyes gradually dimmed. "I'm sorry," he said. "Don't look for me again in the future. I still have many things to do, like fixing up the apartment, like raising a small dog, like opening my own studio." I opened my umbrella, turned my back, and walked away into the distance. Daisy had just sent me a photo. The apartment I liked had a south-facing balcony. The afternoon sunlight poured in beautifully, and even the wooden floor glowed with a pale golden hue. How perfect! Let this rain soak me only this far.